and myself. So, getting back to some Wisconsin-based things, you're all familiar with the Wisconsin Museum. The head ethnologist there has advanced to being at the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. I worked with her in the beginning of her career. She helped me a lot, extremely intelligent, kind of knew what I was talking about, but dug things up for me that would have been harder for me to get out of the museum. Things from the Wisconsin Archaeological Magazine, the oldest archaeological magazine in the United States. Hats off to Wisconsin. They saved documents. This was one of those specific trees marking a location. The plaques were put up by the museum. Again, everyone, it was a true historian according to Helen Hornbach Tanner, the foremost authority on Native Americans until 4 years ago when she passed. She said, if you don't know about these, you've never really been in the wild. I had the privilege of meeting her, interviewing her, working with her. Again, Wisconsin, these were two trees. Think of the highway and think of road signs. We commonly go to an intersection, whoop, there's more than one sign. What does this mean? Kanonazo explained that's the simplicity of when you would see these reoccurring 2 or 3 trees at a crossroads. You would be taught as a youngster what that meant. This goes this way, this goes this way. Whatever the purpose was conveyed more directly by that. And this has reoccurred in 7 states that I can document. Again, when we're talking about shaping the trees and the buds going up, occasionally a tree will be so determined to grow that it will try to grow again later in life. Obviously, the trail marker tree was the last limb. The knob is obviously there that was removed, that was the trunk. You notice the diameter of those other 2, what we refer to as sucker branches, are significantly smaller. That's because those were growing after the Indians were removed from the area. But the village people in the area knew about the tree. There's been continuous plaques up on that ridge, one replacing the next, replacing the next. They named the street after it. I did one thing that I thought was clever. I researched every street in America that had the words trail, marker, tree, bent tree, tree bent in the country, trying to find out why are they saying that. And I wound up actually finding trail marker trees because the people actually named the things after their knowledge of a trail tree being there. This is up in Wisconsin. Black Dog Miller, I don't know if you people know him. Him and his wife Ann. Black Dog's a great friend. I've been with him in the wild. He's taught me things up here about things you do. I'm a better walleye fisherman because of him. He's in a tournament fundraiser as we speak. That's the kind of guy he is. Raising money for the Hockey Association for your area. This is Greg Prochnow, another man who's taken the time and spent his time and money, not the money, but the time to go with me on some trips. This is in Oconto. You see all those convoluted branches? That tree was photographed in the Copper Museum, and there were no sucker branches on it. The photo was that old. And I'm like, boy, I'd like to see that. The old guy said, that's still here somewhere. So for 5 years, I made trips up to that area. Sometimes I incorporate them on the way back or to another trip, trying to be, frugal about that part. I was going to give up. I decided I'm going to call my friend Greg goes, what are you, nuts? I go, I'm going to call the well drillers of the area. And he's like, what do you mean? I go, I learned when I was young, the springs were, the trail marker trees marked natural springs. People that are in the water drilling business back in the day all knew about where the springs were, all that type of stuff. I'm actually referring to the Wells family at Antioch. So what happened was I got a hold of this 90-year-old guy, and he goes, boy, he goes, that tree's still there. It's hidden by a big building the man built. You can't see it from the road. I said, can I go? He goes, oh, just go there, show some backbone. You know? And I went, and sure enough, behind the building, the size of the suckers correlates to the knowledge of growth rate with the oak family. So after it was hidden, like myself, people assumed it was gone. It wasn't gone. It marked a natural spring. So I got to find the tree in a pretty unusual way, and it's still alive. It's on private property. Charles E. Brown, again, when I said I like historians, first director of the State Historical Society of Wisconsin. When I found out that Charles E. Brown included the trail marker trees in the keys for his plats that he did for your state, my wife and I went to Madison to the historical.
This is what I get to do on weekends.
Later I took her for beer. We flipped through these plats looking for this little marker that would indicate a trail tree. An intelligent man that's a professional does not put things in the keys of his personal maps and cartography unless there's a meaning. We actually found where the tree is. It's in what now would be the reserve for the Menominee in Shawano. So it's, where is it? It's like, the 8th down, 7th down? So again, it might take decades to track stuff down, but having real men with real degrees, real women who dedicated their life to something, it's pretty cool to acknowledge them again. The first 2 pages of my book credit another 148 other people other than me that helped in some way do something to help my continued effort. The halfway tree. Along the way, when you're doing a study like this, you learn an incredible amount of knowledge that isn't really related to what you're doing, but you're reading the books in the hope that one sentence in a 400-page book might have a reference to what you're doing. I read over 200 hardcover texts from priests, from foot soldiers, from officers, from pioneers, from explorers, in the hopes of finding one crumb to validate what I was trying to do. What came up as a result in that area, the ability for Indians to count. People think they couldn't count, they weren't mathematicians. They had their own system. Just because it's not our system doesn't mean it doesn't function in their life application. Measuring long distances, they would have a clean pouch of pegs in one big pouch, an empty pouch. Say every 1,000 running paces, you would take one stick and move it to the other pouch. Call went out from the chiefs to line people up on the Mississippi at spaced increments and have them aiming towards Lake Michigan to develop the shortest route between the Mississippi and Lake Michigan. All the runners went out. Obviously, the guy that had the least sticks in his pouch had the shortest route. Even though the Indians moved differently than us, the survey people later in time said they were only off by 6 miles. The tree was not bent or shaped. It was adorned and painted regularly, and things were hung. So you knew, if you don't think it was valuable to know you're halfway to the river to get back to your boats, maybe to escape a hostile tribe because you're stealing horses and brides, think again.
And this halfway tree is kind of by Beloit, Wisconsin. And it's just neat because it has been preserved and really protected. And even after the Native Americans had left the area, I don't know if it was the chief or someone, they came back to the farmer who was there, said you must protect this tree. And to this day, that tree is protected, and now it is actually recognized through the, I think the Wisconsin Historical Society. So it's really neat.
So again, it's learning things like that. You pick up things you're not even thinking you're going to learn. Near that tree, they claim there was a small white oak, but buried under giant oaks, which greatly affects the growth rate, and it's combo with the soil conditions, the availability of light, and how young the tree was shaped. If you shape them too young, they will never grow properly, period. They will be dwarfed forever. I relocated the tree. This is nearly 100 years later. There's very little difference in the growth rate, and it's still alive and healthy. So, again, Jim Jordan, the man from the other trail marker tree in Wisconsin, a great friend now, decades. He put me in contact with John Lee, who unfortunately, he passed away from his cancer before I could do this meeting. I was determined to go, even on chemo. It was 9 degrees below zero. It was on a hilltop, a mile from the nearest footpath, at an angle like that. I thought we were going to lose Jim. The guy guiding us was Norwegian, I believe. You know, he could climb the side of a mountain and then have a snack and a beer and climb higher. I said, "You're going to kill my guest." You know? But we did it. They explained the why of it. Unfortunately, I didn't get to meet John. There was a big article written later in the Wisconsin, your magazine for your state, honoring John and recognizing what I was trying to do.